Thank you, Sister Kim. And good evening, brethren. Welcome to another Wednesday night meeting. The subject that I wanted to touch on lightly today was Davidian courtship. And we will get started without further ado on this. We've talked about marriage before, the importance of marriage, and the fact that this message brings the restitution begins the restitution of marriage to the Edenic ideal, which means that if this is true, that this message has special light on this that is necessary for this time. And in fact, it is raising marriage from the depths, the sordid depths, Brother Haddow says, that it was in. And this message speaks to this very issue. And we may not think of this message as having a very important role in the restitution of marriage, but it does. And it has a lot to say about this. And before you can have marriage, you must have courtship. You must have a chance to get acquainted. The couples must kind of sort themselves out and find out who would be a good fit for a life companion. Now, the world doesn't understand this, but in every marriage and in every courtship, there are three people. Okay? Three people. The two people, yes, and the Lord. Okay? Our relationships all include the Lord. He's part of everything. And so many people don't realize that their life companion needs to be chosen with this in mind. We need to ask ourselves, what does the Lord think about this? What has the Lord said about this? And it is essential that every Davidian ask themselves that question. Now, we have to ask that question in the acquaintanceship stage and the friendship stage. You have to ask that question early. Why? Because by the time you get to the infatuated love stage, there's only one answer to that question of what does the Lord think? He thinks it's fine, no matter what. And we'll work through the problems. Everything will be okay. You don't really have your full, sorry brethren, but we need to be honest and truthful. We don't have our full mental capacities when we are under the spell of love, when we are in love. So the stages before are very, very important, acquaintanceship and friendship. And we are going to go through this briefly. Acquaintanceship is you've just met the person and you're planning out your whole life together. Castles, building. Don't do that, ever. There's some kind of law of nature that when you presumptuously do these things, you kind of spoil the situation. Okay? Do not make these presumptuous plans. You met a person and you're going to be thinking all kinds of things. Don't let yourself ever do that. You should not be thinking about the future. You must be thinking about the present. What do you think about this person? Did you enjoy the time you spent with this person? Was the person a proper lady or gentleman? You want to look at these things. because later on you're not going to be able to see them if you go into infatuated love, which, by the way, is not bad. Infatuated stage 1 love is just normal. Everybody passes through it, and we don't have to stay in it. By the way, we should pass into mature phases of love where we're just as equally in love, but in a deeper, more lasting way. Day and night dreaming and castle building are bad and exceedingly dangerous habits. Once established, it is next to impossible to break up such habits and direct the thoughts to pure, holy, elevated themes. It does something negative to your mind, to the relationship. It will spoil the situation. Don't do it, okay? Don't be doing that, and don't, if you are doing it, stop. Just take things moment by moment. You're just acquaintances. You just met each other. And you're just maybe going to be friends and whatever. So that is important. And remember, there is some kind of psychological principle and maybe a spiritual principle that presumptuously running ahead here seems to have a negative effect on things. So for your own interest, it's in your own interest not to do that. Okay, so we don't go from 0 to 60 in our friendships, in our courtships and so on. We take things step by step. And I can't overemphasize how important that is to go step by step. Take it easy. Friendship is a good thing. And we want to be friends with everyone. When we meet new people, we want to be friends with them, genuine friends. And if they're worth being friends with for a little while, it should be kept for a lifetime. The friendship should be kept for a lifetime. Now, what we see is a false thing where people will make a friendship with an eye toward having a romantic outcome. It doesn't work out, and they drop that friendship like a hot potato. Do not want to even look at the person and have anything to do. Brethren, that is not Christ-like. That is not our religion. If the person was worthwhile being a friend to the beginning, keep that person as a friend. We want to have these platonic, innocent friendships, okay? Honest, pure friendships. It is very important. It doesn't matter who the person is. Don't engage in that kind of behavior where you cut the person off, you hate the person, whatever. If you're doing that, you are not worthy yourself. And you are making a big mistake from a spiritual standpoint. Now, when you have a friendship with someone, you are still able to think rationally, hopefully, and you want to learn about that person. Okay? You don't necessarily share all your deepest, darkest pasts with each other at that first very moment, but you want to learn about what kind of person they are. Does that person care about children? Does it just not in the sense that they want children, but how do they? Do children leave them cold? Do they like children? Do they smile when they see children? It's only normal, brethren, when you see little children scampering about to your heart to go out to them, okay? And it is those kind of things that you look at. How do they treat animals? How do they treat other people? Watch them carefully, because while they're busy trying to make a good impression on you, quite likely, you will see their more natural behavior with other people and their family and so on. So observe, see what other people think, but too. Very important to ask other people for information. You're not asking for gossip. I'd like to know all the dirt on this person. You don't do that. But what kind of person is he? Give me an idea. It's just human decency and the golden rule to help out your friend, help out anyone. It's like, I don't know anything about this person. Just characterize the person. What is he? Oh, he's a wonderful person. He's this, he's that, and that. Okay, good. You take that with a grain of salt too, by the way, because most recommendations are puffed up a bit. Okay, if they're not puffed up, either the person is very honest, or there was little they could puff up, and you are heading for a problem. Because they didn't want to be honest and say, this person is really a difficult person, blah, blah. But always take everything with a grain of salt. That doesn't mean you reject it. It just means that you are open-minded and you keep putting the information together, okay? You just keep adding the information. That's the friendship stage, getting all this information together. And that person may not prove worthy. It may not prove worthy as a life companion, but if you even started to talk to the person, that person is going to be proved worthy as being a friend. Be kind to that person, cherish that person as a friend, and never do differently with them, okay? That you don't hurt the people just because they're not worthy of being a life companion. So that is our Davidian principle of the beginning of friendship. Now, as we go along, the friendship may deepen. And I want you to be careful of focusing in real early. It's a mistake if you develop a friendship and then, boom, you don't look anywhere else but this friend, who is just a friend at that point. Yeah, in the early stages of meeting a group of people, meeting new people and so on, it's a big mistake to focus in real fast, real soon. Make friends, okay? Make lots of friends. And even if you have one person that you have your eye on as seems like a worthy person, still make friends and keep making friends. And even when you are in the stage of being somewhat of a special friend with that person, you are not engaged. You still should be making friends. You still should be open to learning things about the person and so on. Now, one of the things that we should do with in the friendship stage is disclose our intentions to each other. Okay? And one of the mistakes I see Davidians make, they're earnest and they think they're doing right, they meet someone and a week later they disclose their intention to marry that person. Okay? That's not the way ideally it should work. And all those people of you have done that and it's working out fine, praise the Lord. Okay? Not against that. Okay? But for those people who have not done that yet, I'm saying that we all know the stories of someone looked at someone and decided, I'm going to marry that person. Okay, good. And it worked out too. Good, I'm happy. But as a practical thing, we don't have definite intentions at the very first moment we meet people, and we do want to disclose our level of interest back and forth. If a person will not disclose their level of interest, something is wrong. It's called a clue. And we do have to pay attention to it. Maybe they're really, really shy and they don't want to say what their level of interest is, which is, I would like to be your friend and nothing more. Okay, maybe they can't say that. But maybe there's other reasons why. Maybe they're kind of like interested to be a friend, but they have issues, they have fears, they have problems. They, for whatever reason, they're not ready to commit to being a friend. Or maybe they're not ready to commit to being a special friend, or whatever level it is. Now, if you go ahead yourself and you want to disclose, you want to be friendly, and they're not doing that, that's an off-balance relationship. It's not going to work in the long run. It's a mistake. So you need to go step by step with the other person, try to stay the best relationships just as a friendship, and field workers are taught this. move in the friendship to the degree the other person is ready to move. And you can be slightly ahead of the person. If we're making friends with Adventists, we can be slightly warmer and more friendly. But if you're real friendly, it's really in their face. It's like, why is this person so friendly, out of place? I just met them and they're just all over wanting to be friends and so on, you know. So don't do that. Don't press ahead past the point that friendship is comfortable at. Okay, there's a point where we're comfortable with each other back and forth, and that's where you want to go, step by step with each other. Now, there are people who will pretend to be interested and not interested. Brethren, this is a serious crime, and it is hard to understand or overestimate how serious this crime is in the eyes of the Lord. Sister White says, to trifle with hearts is a crime of no small magnitude in the sight of a holy God. And yet some will show a preference for young ladies and call out their affections and then go their way and forget all about the words they have spoken and their effect. A new face attracts them and they repeat the same words, devote to another the same attentions. These are serial triflers. It's a serious problem. They will have to account for this with the Lord. For you, though, that individual needs to disclose their intentions. They need to disclose how interested they are. And if they won't, if they're pushing buttons for you and getting you to develop feelings for them, but they are not willing to be forthcoming themselves, you need to be cautious at that point. You need to be very careful. We do have to have honorable intentions. If someone doesn't have honorable intentions or can't have honorable intentions, it is very, very important for you to understand this. If someone asks you for information about someone, and you know that this person is a serial trifler, okay, and you don't want to say that because this is my brother here and I don't want to throw him under the bus, so you're going to throw the other person under the bus? You don't do that. You need to be honest. For you not to honestly answer those that information request is for you to allow your brother or sister to slip into a potential ditch, and that will be you have done that. Now, we didn't say that you have to tell the individual everything you know about that. Oh, I've watched this guy for 20 years. He just trifles. He's gone into 15 different relationships, and none of them have gone anyplace. You don't have to do that, but you can just say there's a real tendency on his part to not be serious, okay, and to back out before it's serious. Or you say something, whatever, but you have to be honest. You don't let your brother or sister fall into this situation, and if you do, you are guilty. Sister White likens it to stealing, and it is stealing, brethren, and it's a very serious offense. Thou shalt not steal was written by the finger of God upon the tables of stone, yet how much underhanded stealing of affections is practiced and excused. It's not a game to steal people's affections. People are hurt afterwards, maybe for a lifetime. They're damaged sometimes, and many times people get back up, and the right principle when you fall off your horse, you probably all heard, is jump back on that horse again. But some people are traumatized and won't do that, won't go near the horse again. Well, it's a lot of wickedness for people to engage in stealing of affections. So what we do in the friendship stage is we go step by step. We have to see where we are. We're in the friendship stage. It seems like that other person is really interested. They're really doing everything they can to cause us to think well of them and even fall for them. So we need to think and maybe even ask them, it's like, what is your intentions? Now at that point, it is not right to say, I'd like to court you and get married to you. You're not in that stage, you're in the friendship stage. And you need to say, my intention is, and it needs to be an honorable intention. I enjoy the time that we spend together. I'd like to get to know you better, and I'd just like to develop our friendship and see where it goes from there. Okay? You're being honest. You're not building castles at this point. Don't build castles, and don't think that you have to jump straight into engagement. I'm not sure, or courtship. I'm not sure where that came from, but because people think that they have to negotiate a courtship and engagement right from the beginning, that is going on and it needs to stop. Okay? You need to, brethren, need to understand that we do friendship step by step first before we go to the other stages. Okay, so disclosure. Not disclosing important things are serious offenses. If you're married and you don't disclose that, you just committed a serious sin, brethren. And there are other things of a lesser but still very important nature. You do disclosure with each other. Now, there is a step-by-step disclosure too. You don't dump everything out all at once. That is not how we do here. But we do have to disclose our health and our general history. So, I'm not going to read this. It's about health, and Sister White is basically explaining this. She's giving information too. And that was her duty because she knew some things. And she's giving counsel too. And that's because she knew some things there. Mostly it's not our business to interfere in these things, but if asked or if it's appropriate, we need to sometimes do that. Now, with the mutual disclosure, it's about our history. I went to school. In some cases, you might say, I dropped out of school, okay? I would say that myself. I did say that. You give a little bit of a general impression of your history. Honest, but not, you don't have to say everything you ever did, but you characterize it, okay? So one of the things, my wife actually knew, of course, but I was in the military, but just to use this as an example, but I didn't say every place I was stationed, everything I was trained, you understand, that's not disclosure, that's just running into idle detail. But the important things we do, and we do it appropriately. If we're friends, there are things that are appropriate to friends. Now, there's things that are appropriate to possible life mates that we disclose to possible life mates, but that would be beyond the friendship disclosures. But at any rate, there has to be sensible, good judgment and taste in each point, each way, each step. And we don't we can't and we shouldn't, and many times it's absolutely wrong to disclose every single wrong thing we have ever done, okay? We might say, well, you know, I'm not, not an innocent person when it comes to alcohol and tobacco, okay? To be honest, I can disclose that I've probably smoked 2 packs of cigarettes in my life. Though I did smoke more cigars than that in the Army. But I don't need to actually figure out each cigar incident and so on, okay? And I'm using this as an example to you because there's some people who wrongly think that the disclosure means to tell everything. You tell the general thing. I was married before. It's not right, it's not proper to go into the details of your marriage, the intimate details of your marriage. That's a marriage there that you do not talk to other people about. Okay, but you can talk about in the general way about your past marriages, whatever. Okay, so all these things are things that we do for disclosure. Why do we do that? Because it's going to come out anyway. You were going to learn about my cigars sooner or later, because I would tell you probably. And more than cigars, brethren. Unlike Bill Clinton, I inhaled in my younger days. But the point here is that it's going to come out, okay? And it needs to come out early for your own sake. For your own sake, you're going to be better off if you are the one who tells these things in the right way, you share these things in the right way. And if the person is worthy, do you know what they're going to do? They're going to look at your cigars, they're going to look at your alcohol consumption, they're going to judge it in the sense that this was years ago, whatever, and so on. Or what if it's yesterday, that's something else too, okay? That's a concern right there. They need to know that too. But mostly for us Davidians, that's way in the past, and it's something they should know. And if they're worthy on their side, they're going to forgive and forget about it, okay? But if you don't disclose, then there is like the shock and the heartbreak and the anger and so on when they find out. And in some cases, like marriage and so on, you are required to disclose some of these things. You cannot go into things pretending to be someone that you're not. It's wrong. It's active sin. You don't do that. Okay, so that's disclosure, health, and history. Health. Brethren, we all put our best foot forward socially and appearance-wise, and we cover up any problems and try to minimize them and so on. And it's okay to do that on the surface in one sense, but it's not okay to be deceptive about those things. You have serious health issues and so on, those things need to be disclosed. Remember, if that person is really worthy of being your life companion, they're going to be able to take that in stride. They need to be able to understand that, they accept you the way, whatever, for what you are, the good and the bad, and be there for better and worse, and it needs to start at an early stage. Now, you don't have to do this the first time that you meet someone, or even the second time. But at a certain point along the way between friendship and engagement, you do need to do this disclosure. And it's a gradually increasing amount of disclosure, brethren. Okay, now in the friendship stage, you need to learn about each other's qualifications, their life qualifications. What kind of trade did they learn? SES stands for socioeconomic status. It's a sociology term, but it's a useful term because it's like who you are in your professional work life, your education, your experience in work and so on, okay? So why do we care about that? We care about it because all kinds of things can come up to play a role in separating us after we're married. In her day, white and black couples could have been a problem. And it was a real problem, okay? It wasn't so long ago that it was a problem even in this country. It is not a special problem today in this country. It's not something to be, to disqualify us today. And you have to understand why it was in the first place. It was a problem in the first place because people made it a problem with their prejudice. And today, if you're in a country where people make it a problem, you have to think about the things Sister White said. But if it's not a problem in the kingdom, it's not a problem, is it? We're not in the kingdom, but in this particular regard, it has become a much less significant factor. But there are other things to do with our socioeconomic status that can have an effect. If one partner is much different from the other partner, let us say that one person is a high school dropout, another person has some college, maybe as a college graduate or whatever, okay? Now, I'm not being critical about high school graduate dropouts, okay? Keep that in mind because I am one. But what I'm saying is if your partner is a college graduate, a professional or something, love can conquer all, but it can also, after a while, cool down, and you will be left with the problems that you may not have realized that was there. One thing that about marriage is that one important thing is talking to each other, communication. We tend to like people similar to ourselves to a large degree. You want to talk about things with somebody that has things in common with you. If you are too distant from someone, and this can be a cultural thing too, okay? It can be a cultural thing, not an educational thing. But if you don't have things in common, you're going to have a problem at some point, and you may overcome that problem. And I'm very happy for people who overcome these things. But I want you to know that these are not things to ignore. While we don't put a lot of importance on mixed race couples, we would put some significance on mixed SES couples, okay? So you have a professional on one side, a lawyer, whatever, and you have a person who is a salt of the earth person. He does, he's a very good person, a plumber, okay? And he's a hardworking, honest man, but that may not actually be the best match in some ways. And this is just the reality. It doesn't have to always be like this. Everything is different. But a lot of the time, it is like this, brethren. So something to be aware of. And this, during the friendship stage, is when you actually start to learn about each other. And it's like, oh, you're a plumber? Now, but keep in mind that I'm not looking down on plumbers. One of my half-baked skills is plumbing, okay, in the past. I have done a lot of plumbing. And so that is not what the point here. The point is in your friendship and a process of getting to know each other, at first, if you're in love, it's like, oh, you're a plumber? Wonderful, okay? But you need to do that early so that you can take that into account. It's like, what am I going to talk about with this person, okay? I like to talk about this, and I'm going to talk about, what he's interested in. So something to be aware of. Is that a deal killer? No, okay? It's not, but it's something to be aware of. And cultural divides where people are from very different cultures, also big potential problem. And we need to be aware of that. Okay, so we have moved through the friendship stage to where we are developing a romantic friendship. And I put here, are we there yet? Meaning, should we declare an engagement? Should we declare an official courtship? Not yet. Just because you're starting to have romantic feelings for each other doesn't mean that you need to jump in all the way. You need to think still. This is the stage when you still have the ability to analyze things, to think about things. It's like, I'm really attracted to this person, but maybe I need to consider here while I still can. Because past this, brethren, you remember, you're not really going to be able to fully think about things in your normal way. So, romantic friendship, special friends, it does, you're going to move that to that point. Now, what is very important is that you both go step by step to this level, and that you are disclosing your intentions. If one won't disclose their intentions, and you are in this level of romantic friendship, you have problems, brethren. You do need to both be on the same page here. And if they can't, think things through. If they can't tell you that they want to be friends with you now, romantic friends, they want to continue to get to know you, they're very happy with you and so on. If they can't say that now, you're going to have problems later on. They're going to be the kind of people who can't tell you that they really love you. They're not going to be emotionally forthcoming, very likely. And you're going to have problems. So think about it right now. Everything means something. Ideally, you're both on the same page here. You're both disclosing to each other your intentions. Your intentions are proper, and you're ready to move forward. If you haven't got to the same stage there together, it's very foolish for one side to think to move forward further. Okay? Don't jump there further on your own. But hopefully both of you are there at the same time. You're special romantic friends, and you can become courting friends, and you can actually say, I'd like to, what do you think about us courting, having a courtship here, with serious intentions? You don't say, with a view of getting married next June. Okay, don't do that here. You're just developing this relationship. So as courting friends, you are going to officially, and you disclose that to the other people. If you hide that, you're not properly courting. You disclose that to the brethren, your friends, your family. Yeah, I'm courting this person. We're really good friends. We care about each other. We're seeing where this goes. Okay, we're serious about each other. Okay, that's where you want to go with this. You don't jump straight to the end yet, and that's why I say, are we there yet? You all know that little thing. Are we there yet, Dad? And you've just been driving a half hour, Okay, one of the things you need to expect is conflict and doubt. That's fine. Better have some conflict early and see how you can deal with it. Some people can deal with conflict, some people do fine. They can handle things and they can settle things, and they're stable, they know who they are, they're worthy, and they're not like wishy-washy and ready to just fade away at the first difficulty. And by the way, if the other person is not able to do this, they're not worthy of you. Think about that. You deserve someone who is going to be there for you, thick or thin, who can take some troubles and keep going. Okay? They can take the conflict and the doubt and the troubles, arguments, whatever. And there's going to be, because we're imperfect human beings. Very few people are going to go through their whole courtship, engagement, and marriage and never have any conflict. Almost certainly it happens. There's strange people out there, but you know what? It's very, very rare. We're all going to have issues. How do we solve those issues? It's so important to be able to solve these things in the right way. As Davidians, we should be able to do this. Forgiveness is a big part of this. You just need to forgive and forgive and forgive. And that's a key thing about marriage and about courtship and engagement. So I do want you to be not discouraged when you have that. In fact, if you have a conflict and you come out of that conflict stronger than before, you know what that means? That's good. Okay? That means that that's a small step in the right direction. You do want to, that's exactly how you want to do. Come out stronger than before. Okay, so at a certain point, you're going to talk about engagement, and that's fine. Engagement should not be something you talk about in the first week, the first 2 weeks, the first 2 months. Big mistake, brethren, in most cases. And we let the Lord, in a very unusual situations, there are exceptions to every rule. But I'm not going to deal with the exceptions. I'm going to deal with the rule. And that is, why would you want to go from friendship to engagement in 1 week or 1 month? Okay? You don't know the person yet. You haven't had time to really see each other in many different situations, the reactions of the individual. So we do encourage you to have a period of courtship followed by a period of engagement. The engagement should be, they find that the optimum engagement period is a little bit longer than a year, 12 months, 12 to 18 months. That seems like eternity to most couples who are in love. You mean you want me to wait a year and a half before we get married? Well, that's the optimum time frame in many cases, but we're not setting any particular thing. It is not our job to tell people exactly how they should marry, how they should engage in their courtship, and so on. And by the way, if we see people who think it is their job to tell you, now we're not talking about open sin and so on, but they still think it's their job to tell you how to conduct your life. That is a mistake. Okay, we don't do that. I am not going to do that, and I would hope that no one else would have such a desire to do that. We can counsel kindly. We can point out things in a kind way, and we can point out what the message and the association teaches, but you don't enforce and insist and demand and command and so on, okay? That is something that I hope everyone remembers. Do not insert yourself into other people's business. That seems to be a universal tendency, by the way, when people are forming romantic attachments. You want to show yourself wise, you need to have a respectable courtship and engagement. It is wise. It is a stage of your life that can be pleasant. You can be happy in this stage. It is a good part of your life. Enjoy it. Enjoy the relationship with the special person. Okay, it's good. You don't have to jump straight into marriage right away. And it's wise, brethren, to do this. And now for those who may have moved in a more accelerated way, there are many, many successful marriages along that pattern. We're not advising or condoning anyone to do that, but we are saying there is every reason to know, believe that the Lord will take you through these things, those people who are already married, and it will all be fine. This particular statement claims that the divorce rate is even lower for couples who were going with each other for 2 years. Okay, brethren, 2 years. The one thing that is a little different here is that we're Davidians and we have a 0 divorce rate. Okay? Among true Davidians, the divorce rate is 0. Keep that in mind. Okay? 2 genuine Davidians have a 0 divorce rate. And that means more than you're thinking it means right now. That means a lot of forgiveness. a lot of forgiveness. But if they're two genuine Davidians, the divorce rate is 0. Okay, I wanted to read this thought from the Spirit of Prophecy as a closing thought. The choice of a life companion should be such as best to secure physical, mental, and spiritual well-being for parents and for their children, such as will enable both parents and children to bless their fellow man and honor their Creator. Remember, He's part of this arrangement. When we have a new friendship, a new special friend, a new person that we want to become engaged with, or we want to marry. We have gotten married to. We have to remember that the Lord is part of this relationship. And at the beginning, we need to ask ourselves, is this relationship the relationship that will honor the Lord? Will it be a blessing to others? We don't do this just purely for selfish reasons. So there are very serious, important questions that you might be able to ask yourself successfully in the acquaintance and early friendship stage. Pretty much impossible to ask yourself these questions later on. So ask it early. Is this what the Lord, would the Lord look with pleasure on this arrangement? And if the person is not a Davidian, for instance, or an Adventist even, you can know the answer, brethren. The Lord is not going to look with approbation on that. We do need to think about these things, and we know, or we should know, all the different requirements for a good husband, a good wife, and we need to ask ourselves, what would the Lord tell me? Because you know what? The Lord has told us the answers to all these things in the message, in the Spirit of Prophecy, and we do need to pay attention to that. Jesus did not begin his ministry by some great work before the Sanhedrin at Jerusalem. At a household gathering in a little Galilean village, his power was put forth to add to the joy of the wedding feast. Thus he showed his sympathy with men and his desire to minister to their happiness. And the Lord takes pleasure in our happiness. He wants us to be happy. He wants the marriages to be happy. We grieve the Lord's heart terribly when we have unhappiness in our marriage. We don't think about that usually because we're just self-centered, self-concerned, but we grieve his heart in a terrible way when all the pain and suffering and the sadness and children who are affected and so on. Brethren, it is a serious, serious thing we do without even thinking about it, that we hurt the Lord in this. And when we have a happy marriage, he is happy. And we need to conduct our life in the way that will be that will bring his blessings and that will meet his the standards that he has set for us. He who gave Eve to Adam as a helpmeet performed his first miracle at a marriage festival. In the festival hall where friends and kindred rejoiced together, Christ began his public ministry. Thus, he sanctioned marriage, recognizing it as an institution that he himself had established. It is a good thing, brethren. I think a lot of people's attitude toward other people, young people, older couples who are getting to know each other, it comes from their own experience of marriage life. Those who have good experiences tend to be encouraging, whereas those who have had somewhat problematic marriages, it's like, be careful, you're making a big mistake, because they have seen that themselves. And both sides are true, okay? The Lord he takes pleasure in marriages. He wants to see more good marriages take place, but he wants it to be right. He wants it to be with the right person for the right reason, under the right circumstances. So I would say to those people who are standing by to pour cold water on every relationship, that they need to not do this. Okay, they need to step back, more mind their own concerns, and if they have information to disclose, they need to disclose the information in a kindly way, in a helpful way, and then they need to back off. And this is the counsel of the rod too, by the way. Once you say your piece, you back off. Your business is done. And for the brethren who are in the process of meeting and greeting and developing friendships, I would say that take your time in the early stages. If you still can think clearly, you can still see the person clearly who they are. If you can see some negative things about the person, good. You're in the stage where you still have some rational thought left. Okay? And you need to think about things, compare the reality of your friendship to what the message teaches, to the standards, to the requirements. If a person is not a Davidian but says, you know, I have just developed this moment a great interest in the rod, and I'm going to study the rod, you need to hold back. Don't proceed, because that person may have developed that interest in the rod only because they want to please you and move forward. Don't go down that line, brethren. You do have to follow the things that the Lord has told us if you want His blessing. And as you have the ability to still engage in calm, rational thought, remember the standards that the message teaches, the Spirit of prophecy teaches, and do these things, and the Lord will bless you. And we know that today there are many, many, many marriages contracted in the world and in the church, and maybe even in Davidia. This should not be. But among God's people, there should be more marrying, not less marrying, okay? But this is a true thing, brethren. Among God's people, the marriage is a good thing, and move into it as the Lord leads you. You lead yourself and you're going to have problems. But move into this as the Lord leads you. It could be that He has good things for you tomorrow. It could be that His plan is to wait for a couple of years. It could be that He has the right person in the kingdom. Don't you tell the Lord what He's going to do. Just be willing to move step by step with the Lord on these things in the right way. So with those things, I want to. I also want to say one more thing. You do not, and there's no benefit to coming to Brother Trevor to say, I found this person and I'd like to have a friendship or whatever. What is Brother Trevor going to tell you? Okay, if you are young, you should go to your parents, okay, and listen to their advice, and hopefully if they're godly people, follow it. But if you're older people, what are you coming to Brother Trevor for? Am I your guru? Am I your cult leader? I hope not. Okay? What I am telling you here publicly is all I have to say. I don't have any special things beyond these things in the courtship paper that we'll be putting out here shortly. These are the things that the message teaches, and you don't need to, you don't need somebody else to tell you these things. You don't need other busybodies to tell you what to do or not to do, and you don't need Brother Trevor either. And you're not going to get any help from Brother Trevor in can I do this? It's not my job to tell you what you can do or not, okay? But we'll tell you what the message says. So with these thoughts, I hope for the very best for all of the single brethren and brothers and sisters in Davidia to follow the Lord's leading on this, whatever it could be. And also, of course, we want the very best to all you genuine Davidian couples out there. Remember that it is your job to show everyone, the world, the church, and your fellow Davidians what a wonderful thing Davidian marriage is. Thank you, brethren.